The morning my wife walked away, she smiled like she'd already won. By sunset, she'd taken the house, emptied our joint accounts, and convinced everyone I was the villain. I honestly believed my life was over. What I didn't know was that karma had already started writing a very different ending.
My name is Daniel, and until that year, I thought I had the kind of marriage people secretly hoped for. Emily and I had been together for 11 years, built a comfortable life in Colorado, and spent every Sunday talking about vacations we'd eventually take after slowing down at work. We weren't flashy people. We laughed over cheap takeout, argued about paint colors, and celebrated every little milestone together. Friends called us the stable couple. Looking back, maybe that's why I ignored the tiny cracks. Stability can make you stop paying attention to what's quietly falling apart. Emily had recently started working for a fast-growing marketing company. She seemed energized in ways I hadn't seen for years. I was happy for her. She stayed later at the office, traveled more often, and constantly talked about exciting new projects with people I'd never met. The first thing that felt strange wasn't a late night or a business trip. It was silence. Emily stopped telling me about her day. Conversations became one-word answers. Every question I asked somehow became an accusation I never intended to make, leaving me apologizing for problems I couldn't understand. One Friday evening, I planned a surprise dinner at her favorite restaurant. She texted 30 minutes before we were supposed to meet, saying a client emergency kept her at work. I believed her without hesitation. Then a friend accidentally posted a photo from downtown that changed everything. Emily was sitting at an outdoor restaurant, laughing with a man I'd never seen before. They weren't discussing spreadsheets or marketing campaigns. They looked comfortable, familiar, close enough that strangers probably assumed they were married. I stared at that picture until my phone battery nearly died. When she came home, I simply asked who he was. She didn't panic. She didn't hesitate. She said he was a coworker celebrating a successful project and accused me of invading her privacy. Somehow, I ended the conversation feeling guilty instead of suspicious. For weeks, I convinced myself I was overthinking everything. Marriage requires trust, right? But little details kept refusing to fit together. One afternoon, our neighbor asked if Emily had enjoyed her weekend at the lake. I froze. She'd told me she'd been attending a leadership seminar in Chicago. The neighbor even mentioned seeing Emily leave with the same man from the restaurant, carrying picnic baskets instead of luggage. That night, I confronted her again. This time, she exploded before I finished speaking. She called me controlling, insecure, and emotionally exhausting. Every sentence made me question my own memory. I actually wondered if I had become the problem without realizing it. A month later, divorce papers arrived without warning. According to the documents, Emily claimed our marriage had become emotionally unsafe because of my constant suspicion and controlling behavior. Reading those words felt like watching someone rewrite my entire life while I stood there, unable to speak. The legal battle moved faster than I imagined. Emily had prepared everything long before I even knew our marriage was ending. Separate financial records, witness statements, carefully organized timelines. I wasn't fighting someone making emotional decisions. I was facing someone who had planned every move months ahead. Because I trusted her completely, many of our investments and accounts were under arrangements that heavily favored her during the settlement. My lawyer warned me the outcome wouldn't be pretty. I kept hoping honesty would matter. Reality had other plans. When the judge finalized everything, Emily walked away with the house, most of our savings, and nearly every shared asset we'd built together. I left carrying 2 suitcases, my old pickup truck, and the feeling that 11 years had disappeared in a single afternoon. The hardest part wasn't losing the money, it was losing people. Friends stopped calling, mutual acquaintances quietly drifted away, social media filled with comments praising Emily's strength while treating me like someone they were relieved to avoid. I became the villain in a story I never wrote. For weeks, I barely slept. Every morning began with the same question: how had everything changed so completely? I replayed conversations, searching for answers, convinced I'd missed some obvious warning that everyone else somehow recognized, except me. Then, something unexpected happened. My former coworker, Sarah, invited me for coffee. She admitted she'd been hesitant to reach out because of everything she'd heard, but after seeing Emily with another man months before the divorce became public, something never felt right to her. Sarah wasn't spreading gossip. She simply told me facts. She'd attended a networking event where Emily openly introduced the man as someone special. The date of that event stunned me. It happened nearly 5 months before Emily filed for divorce. For the first time, I realized I wasn't imagining things. The timeline I'd questioned in my own mind suddenly made sense. Emily hadn't fallen into another relationship after leaving me. She'd built another life while pretending ours was still perfectly normal. I wanted revenge more than anything. I imagined exposing everything online, sending screenshots to every friend we knew, and destroying the carefully polished image she'd created. But my lawyer gave me advice that completely changed my direction. He leaned across his desk and said, "People who build their lives on deception usually don't need enemies. Time becomes their biggest opponent." At first, those words frustrated me. They sounded passive. Months later, I realized they were absolutely right. Instead of chasing Emily, I started rebuilding myself. Therapy replaced sleepless nights. I accepted freelance consulting work. I rented a tiny apartment that barely fit my furniture, but every paycheck felt like proof that my future wasn't over. About 8 months after the divorce, an old neighbor called unexpectedly. Emily had moved her new boyfriend into the house almost immediately after I left. At first, everything looked perfect. Expensive dinners, luxury vacations, constant smiling photos online. Then those perfect photos suddenly stopped. Weeks passed without updates. Friends began quietly asking questions. Something had obviously changed, but nobody seemed willing to say exactly what. I remembered my lawyer's words and waited without expecting anything. Another mutual friend eventually told me the truth. Emily's new partner wasn't the successful entrepreneur he'd claimed to be. Several business deals had collapsed, creditors were calling daily, and financial problems were growing faster than either of them could control. The lifestyle Emily proudly displayed online had been financed almost entirely through borrowed money and risky investments. When those investments failed, everything unraveled at incredible speed. Bills piled up, arguments became constant. The dream she'd traded our marriage for started falling apart. Then came the biggest surprise of all. The house she'd fought so hard to keep entered foreclosure proceedings after months of missed payments. The same home she'd celebrated winning during our divorce was suddenly slipping away, despite every desperate attempt to save it. I didn't celebrate. Honestly, I expected to feel satisfaction. Instead, I mostly felt relief. Watching someone face consequences wasn't nearly as rewarding as finally realizing their choices no longer controlled my emotions or my future. Around the same time, my consulting business unexpectedly expanded. One satisfied client recommended me to another, then another. Within a year, I earned more than I ever had during my corporate career. The apartment that once felt temporary slowly started feeling like home. I also met someone new, named Claire. Unlike my previous relationship, nothing moved quickly. We built trust through ordinary conversations instead of dramatic promises. She never tried to impress me with perfection. She simply showed up consistently, especially on difficult days.
One afternoon, while grabbing groceries, I unexpectedly saw Emily. She looked tired in a way I'd never seen before. There was no anger in her eyes anymore, just exhaustion. For a few awkward seconds, neither of us knew what to say.
She quietly apologized for how everything happened, not with dramatic tears or excuses, just a simple sentence admitting she'd convinced herself that chasing excitement justified hurting someone who had always stood beside her. It wasn't enough to erase the past, but it sounded genuine. I accepted the apology without reopening old wounds. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant refusing to carry bitterness any longer. Walking away from that conversation felt lighter than winning any courtroom battle ever could have made me feel. Looking back now, losing my marriage wasn't the worst thing that happened to me. Staying in a relationship built on lies would have been far worse. Sometimes the life you desperately try to hold on to is exactly the one preventing your future from beginning. If you've ever been betrayed, remember this: don't waste your energy chasing revenge. Build a life so meaningful that the people who underestimated you become nothing more than a chapter you eventually stop rereading. And if this story reminded you that better days are possible, subscribe for more unforgettable stories every week.